Alex had always loved the holidays, the way Christmas brought the family together and made even the coldest days warm. This year was different, though. He hadn't been home in over a year, his psychology studies abroad consuming all his time. The anticipation of coming home to his parents' new house felt surreal. When he stepped out of the taxi and stood in front of the two-story brick house nestled at the edge of a small village, he felt a strange unease creeping up his spine. "Welcome home, Alex," his mother's cheerful voice snapped him out of his thoughts. She looked the same as ever, her arms wide open, her auburn hair sprinkled with a little more gray. His father followed close behind, his graying beard making him look rugged. They hugged him tightly before ushering him inside. The house was beautiful but carried an odd stillness. It smelled faintly of wood polish and lavender. But there was something else too, something faintly metallic. Alex shook off the thought, blaming it on his overactive mind. Over dinner the conversation was lively. They spoke about his studies, his friends, and their move to this house. Yet there were moments when his parents exchanged glances, their smiles faltering for just a second. It was subtle, but Alex noticed. Later in his room, Alex unpacked his bag. The room was cozy, the walls painted a soft blue, and the bed neatly made. A large window overlooked the snowy yard, the curtain swaying gently despite the closed panes. He chalked it up to a draft and closed the curtains. That night, as he lay in bed, he couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The darkness seemed to press against him, heavy and oppressive. He shifted under the blankets, telling himself it was just jet lag. Yet when he turned his head, he could swear he saw the faint outline of a figure in the corner. He blinked and it was gone. By midnight, the sensation became unbearable. He had to go to the bathroom, but his body felt rooted to the bed. A low whispering began, faint but distinct, as though someone was urging him to get up and go to the window. The whispers grew insistent. "Jump," they said. "It's the only way." Alex squeezed his eyes shut, his heart pounding. He muttered under his breath, "This isn't real, this isn't real." The whisper subsided as dawn's light seeped through the curtains. At breakfast, his mother's usual chatter felt strained. "You didn't sleep well, did you?" she asked, her brow furrowed. "Not really," Alex admitted, poking at his toast. "Something feels off in that room." His father's fork clattered against his plate. "We felt it too," he said, his voice low. "Cups moving on their own, footsteps at night. We've been trying to ignore it." "Why didn't you tell me?" Alex asked, his voice tinged with frustration. His mother's hands trembled as she reached for her coffee. "We didn't want to scare you. We thought maybe it'd stop after a while." Alex's resolve hardened. "I'll figure this out," he said, more to himself than to his parents. The second night was worse. The whispers began earlier, and this time they weren't alone. The air grew icy, and the window rattled as though someone was trying to force it open. Then, without warning, Alex felt an invisible force grab him. He was dragged across the bed, his hands scrambling for purchase. He clung to the bedpost with all his strength, his mind racing. "Let go," the voice growled, deeper and angrier now. "You must." Alex began to pray, the words tumbling out of his mouth in desperation. "Our Father who art in heaven, deliver us from evil." As if struck by an unseen blow, the force released him, and the whisper stopped. He lay trembling in bed until the first rays of sunlight brought a sense of safety. At breakfast, he confronted his parents. "This house is haunted," he said bluntly. His father nodded grimly. "We were afraid of that. There's a history to this place, but we don't know the full story." "Then I'll find out," Alex said. That afternoon, Alex visited the village church. It was a small, quaint building with stained glass windows that caught the sunlight beautifully. Inside, he found Father Michael, a young priest with kind eyes. "You're staying in the old Harper house, aren't you?" the priest asked when Alex explained his visit. Alex nodded. "What do you know about it?" Father Michael sighed. It belonged to a man named Robin Harper. His wife threw herself out of the window with their newborn after a terrible argument. The grief drove Robin mad, and he ended his life in that house. Some say his spirit is restless, bound by guilt. "Has anyone tried to help him?" Alex asked. The priest's expression darkened. "Many have tried, few succeeded. The church frowns upon prayers for the souls of suicide, but..." He hesitated. "Perhaps it's time to make an exception." Alex thanked him and returned home, preparing himself for the third night. That night, Alex lay awake, waiting. The room felt charged, the air thick with tension. Around midnight, the whispers began again, louder this time. Then came the voice, guttural and commanding. "Jump," it said. "It's the only way." Alex sat up, his heart pounding. "I won't," he said firmly. "Who are you?" A shadow could see near the window, taking the shape of a man. He was tall, his face twisted with sorrow. "Robin Harper," he said. "Why do you resist? You don't understand the pain." "Maybe I don't," Alex said, his voice steady despite the fear gripping him. "But I want to. Tell me your story." The shadow hesitated before speaking. "I loved her. She was my everything, but I failed her. I let my anger drive her to despair. And now I'm alone, trapped." Alex's training kicked in. "You're not alone, Robin. You're holding on to this pain, but it's time to let go. She wouldn't want this for you." The shadow wavered. "But how?" "Trust me," Alex said. "We'll pray for you, for her, for your child. Let me help you find peace." For the first time, the shadow seemed less imposing. "You would do that?" "Yes," Alex said. "But you have to let go of this house and move on." The shadow lingered a moment before nodding. "I will try." The next morning, Alex returned to the church and told Father Michael everything. The priest agreed to hold a special prayer for the Harper family, despite the church's reservations. Together, they prayed for the souls of Robin, his wife, and their child. From that day on, the strange occurrences in the house stopped. The whispers, the footsteps, the moving objects, all gone. Alex's family finally felt at home. As Alex packed to return to his studies, his mother hugged him tightly. "You saved us," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I just helped someone find peace," Alex replied. And as he walked away from the house, he couldn't help but feel a sense of fulfillment, knowing that he had made a difference, both for his family and for a soul that had been lost for far too long.